Hello, everybody. So we're going to talk about the Greenlist standard. Anybody in this room ever heard of the Greenlist standard before? Right, one, perfect. Well, the Greenlist standard itself is a real-world program which is launched in 2012, which was launched in 2012, and is now actually approved in Bonn this week at the COP, that's the Climate Change Conference, approved to actually launch for a bigger program. Porini, same question. Who knows Porini? No hands. Oh, well, one hand. Okay. So I guess we have to work on that. I'm the CEO of Porini, and Porini is a Swiss-based foundation and was created actually to launch this big program for IUCN. Porini is the dolphin, the big ship following us into blockchain waters. That's IUCN. Same question. Who knows IUCN? Zero. Okay. Well, do you know that elephants are endangered? Who knows that elephants are endangered? Well, some hands coming up, right. You know that. Why do you know that? You know that because IUCN is actually monitoring 80,000 species since 1994 all over the world. One species, a very iconic one, elephants. The other ones, tigers, lions, things like that. You know that because IUCN does the work for you. What about the World Heritage? World Heritage sites? Nobody? What about what? Yeah, thank you. One in Switzerland? No? The Lake Geneva area? If you make a good ICO, you might go and live there in the future. The Chinese Wall, that's the World Heritage Site. So there are about 1,000 in the world, and IUCN is doing the job for UNESCO World Heritage, for UNESCO World Heritage, for natural heritage sites. There are about 250 worldwide. Now, as I said at COP, there is a new flagship program launched, which is the Greenlist. So you have the Red List, you have the World Heritage Sites, and now, after 5 years of preparation, the Greenlist. The Greenlist standard is working with protected areas, and it's scaling up. It's meant to be 1,000 sites in 2 years, 10,000 in 7 years, and 20,000 in 12 years. So it's a long-term project. And IUCN might know in the future, next year, it's going to be 70 years old. It's the oldest and the biggest World Conservation Union in the world. So we're just the dolphins, remember. If you look at the protected area database, there are about 200,000 protected areas in the world. But not all of them are really doing their job. They're protected areas on the paper. And IUCN realized that. And if you look at climate change, you want to change that. So this Greenlist standard program is looking exactly at that. They try to improve the performance of protected areas all over the world. Why do they perform poorly? One reason is very simple. They lack money. They know what to do, but unfortunately, they cannot afford that. It might be different in Switzerland than in Tanzania or in Zambia or in South Africa. It depends on the area. Another reason might be poor management or no management at all. Even in Switzerland, not all, sorry about that, okay, not all protected areas are properly managed. So they don't even know what to do. Downgrading is another program or problem. We have rising populations, for example, in Africa and Asia. So there are a lot of people pouring into protected areas. And if they use devastating strategies to feed themselves, they're going to destroy the protected area just by their presence. And other rights like access and equity. The IUCN Greenlist program is 3 steps. The first step is an application phase. Remember, protected area wants to be greenlisted because it's good for them and it creates money for them. 3 phases: application phase, candidate phase, and greenlist phase. The application phase, the first thing you have to do if you want to be greenlisted, you have to create an eagle in your country. So IUCN works with 160 countries worldwide, and in every single country, we have to create an eagle, an expert assessment group, so that protected areas can actually access the Greenlist program. Why do we have an eagle in every country? Well, in Switzerland, we don't have mangroves, we don't have oceans, we have mountains, which are not all over the place, so we have to adapt the standard to every single country in the world. Once adapted, a site can express their interest and has to pass a small evaluation to show, okay, that's potentially a good site or a site which could be green listed in the future. Then they're a candidate. In the candidate phase, well, there is much more work to do. So you have to deliver evidence that you actually fulfill the 41 criteria which are mentioned in the Greenlist Standard Handbook. You will receive a visit. And if everything goes fine and you are reviewed, you are evaluated and reviewed and positively proposed, you are going to be green listed. Now you're happy. You have a green list branding. You can do a lot of things with it, but it's not finished. Because after only 2.5 years, you have to prove again that you're still doing and performing, doing your job. That's a big difference to like World Heritage, because once you're World Heritage, you're going to stay World Heritage. Doesn't matter what happens. Not with Green List. Green List is a positive list, and you have to perform actually doing what you promise in order to stay on it. So after 2.5 years, just say hello, okay, still everything fine. But after 5 years, you have to renew the whole process. So you run through the 3 steps, you have to prove again, and that's a lot of work. IUCN decided, we helped a little bit actually, to map the whole Green List standard process on blockchain. Well, for IUCN, that's revolutionary. Why were we able to convince them to do that? The 3 main reasons. The first one is very simple: friction, fees for money transfer. IUCN works in 160 countries in the world. There's a lot of fees to pay if you transfer money. So with the token, that could be much better done. A second one is transparency and trust. So there is a site visit. We map it on blockchain. The guy says on his headphone or his mobile phone, that's perfect, wonderful. Gets right back to us, contract fulfilled. It's a greenlisted area. And every donor, because we work a lot with traditional donors at the moment, every donor can actually see what's happening with his money. So we promised that it's going to be greenlisted. It is greenlisted. The donor can see it. And the third one, it's like creating we call it a conservation ecosystem. Like all these people using tokens, because all these services you have to buy for getting from phase 1 to phase 2 to phase 3, and all services you have to buy if you want to actually improve your protected area in some area, like having a management plan, things like that, all these services have to be paid in tokens. So we're going to create an ecosystem, and we hope that tokens will gain value, and that we will be able to actually support protected areas which should be green listed in areas which cannot afford the green list process through to these tokens. So this is a partnership program for all protected areas in the world. That's IUCN. So we created the Green List Standard token. You can actually buy these wallets. And one thing which is maybe special for IUCN is that this token should represent like a benchmark issue. It's like if a lot of those tokens are bought, then the global community is interested in protected areas. Remember, Red List, very big, World Heritage, very big. So we have IUCN has 100 billion turnover every year. These are donations from governments. These are funds, but mainly governments actually investing into protected areas. These 100 million, that's big. And if we can use the token as a benchmark, going to governments and say, hey, nobody's buying these tokens. Nobody wants to invest in global protected areas. We have to change that. So they will buy tokens, and we will fulfill the promise. Well, that's very special. Scaling up, as I said, right now we're starting. So officially start is this week. And in 2020, we should have, after 5 years of preparation, have 1,000 sites. In the process, not necessarily listed. 5 years later, we want to have 10,000, and 10 years later, in 2030, we want to have 20,000 sites. Sounds like a lot of work, a lot of tokens to be sold, but it's only 10% of all protected areas worldwide. So maybe we get 30, maybe we only get 10, but these are big numbers. That's why we need IUCN. So we think the protected areas which are integrated in the process are going to rise steadily, 5,000 every 2 or 3 years. We're right now down here. We have like 20, 25 in 50 different countries actually green listed. Okay, thank you. If we work with IUCN, we have to make some commitments. IUCN is not interested in speculative systems. So we have half of the tokens which are not sold at the moment. They go into the Greenlist fund. The Greenlist fund is frozen for 2 years, and that's the first period. Until 2020, we only have 1,000 sites which we want to have integrated into Greenlist process. So we get enough tokens sold with the TG phase 1 and 2, so we don't need these frozen tokens, which might change afterwards. Because if you get 5,000 or 10,000 sites additionally in a few years, we will release tokens in the partnership program to actually give the possibility for all protected areas also from challenging countries to participate. And on the other hand, to keep the price more or less growing, yes, but not like bouncing up. We're not looking for a doubling the price in every 2 months. It's not our aim, not IUCN's aim either. So half of the tokens go to the Greenlist fund that are frozen there. So we're looking for a stabilizing growth. Stabilizing, which means that it's steadily growing, like the protected areas, but it's not jumping around. Maybe there's some investors interested in something like that instead of having all the hassles with volatility. Just to remember, we make this Greenlist standard token. The launch will be in 13 days, the 26th, it's a Sunday. So before launch, you might buy some tokens right here. It's only 4 days. It's a short period, and the first day it's a 30% discount. So you might be interested to interrupt, or eat at 12:15, so they have enough time to buy some tokens. Additionally, this is IUCN again. We want to invite 1 or 2 persons joining us as conservation partners, conservation investors. Because IUCN, a global organization, has only 5 task forces. And IUCN thinks, we help again a little bit, that crypto conservation needs a task force. It's really interesting for them. So we are going to create a 6th task force inside IUCN called Crypto Conservation. And for that task force, we're actually looking for 1 or 2 persons out of the crypto investors interested in conservation to join us in this task force. That's what we're going to do with the tokens. So this is in Seychelles. I hope this is going to be the first crypto-enabled green-listed area in the world and preserved for future generations. Thank you very much.